Hello everyone, and welcome to another installment of random thoughts I've been thinking about Stargate since I finished my recent retrospective series. Specifically the other day, it struck me just how humanist Stargate is. When it comes to optimism in science fiction, Star Trek is often the go-to example, but I think there's an argument to be made that Stargate may in fact be more optimistic and humanistic than Star Trek. This is not to badmouth Star Trek. I mean, if you've seen my channel, you know how much I love Star Trek. I'll even say outright that I vastly prefer Star Trek over Stargate. This is just an observation. A while back, I did a video on Star Trek's core philosophy, which operates on the logic that deep down all human beings are savage creatures, who will murderously turn on each other if given enough provocation. Star Trek, however, shows us a future where we have learned to control our baser instincts, and overcome our savagery to forge a better and brighter world. As I explained in that video, not only is this notion not backed up by any research, but it also implies that any societal problems we're experiencing right now are just natural growing pains which we'll all just get over with enough time, which isn't exactly comforting to people who are suffering in the world today. Stargate, on the other hand, seems to take the opposite stance. Despite being much more militaristic than Star Trek and portraying modern-day people, Stargate appears to operate on the logic that we're already awesome, and if given the opportunity, we should race out into space and get our hands on as much cool stuff as possible. Stargate repeatedly makes a point of glorifying the unrelenting pursuit of knowledge, which is the perfect segue to talk about today's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is a uniquely effective way to learn more about subjects like science, engineering, programming, and maths. The platform helps you build up your knowledge and problem-solving skills in fun, bite-sized interactive lessons. It's the exact opposite of mindless scrolling. These days, there's a lot of debate surrounding generative AI, so Brilliant offers a course to learn all about what's going on with large language models. Having an informed view on controversial subjects like this is always important. With Brilliant, you can get your hands on real language models, learn the importance of training data, and how to fine-tune an LLM yourself. To try these and everything else Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/Rowan or click on the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Perhaps if Carter had access to Brilliant, she could have taught O'Neill a thing or two.
Well, the hole isn't really a hole per se, but an interdimensional conduit. Colonel?
Okay.
One of the things I used to lament about Stargate SG-1 compared to the original movie was the loss of mystery surrounding the Goa'uld. Being a fan of H.P. Lovecraft and cosmic horror in general, I always loved the sense of the unknown intrinsic to the original movie's Ra, which is why it used to irk me that SG-1 turned around and gave us the full wiki of Goa'uld civilization by the third season. And while I still really like cosmic horror, in retrospect I kind of love how all the Stargate which came after the movie is basically a giant middle finger to that genre. If you are afraid of the unknown, then the entire purpose of the Stargate program is to make the unknown known. It's very fitting that the primary antagonists of SG-1, the Goa'uld and the Ori, both build their power by keeping their subjects ignorant. The Goa'uld are a lot less scary when you see they're just parasitic worms who lucked into getting their hands on a bunch of cool technology, and the Ori literally feed off their worshippers to gain power. In both of these stories, knowledge is the great equalizer. Whenever SG-1 or the Lanteans or the Destiny crew suffer a defeat, the solution is always to learn more and put that knowledge into practice. The situation is never hopeless in Stargate stories. There's always some new discovery which will get the characters out of whatever jam they're in. Human ingenuity, resourcefulness, and adaptability are at the forefront of Stargate's long-running arcs. The Tauri are always learning, growing, inventing, and changing to make progress. This kind of aggressive expansion onto the galactic stage sees the Tauri going from a gate-hopping skirmishing force to a bona fide galactic superpower within only a decade. Stargate also makes it a point to state that this kind of progress is only possible through cooperation with others. Stargate does have a very US-centric perspective at the start, to the point where SG-1 closely collaborated with the actual Pentagon, but as the mythos develops, it becomes more international in scope. In fact, the Stargate program becomes the driving force for more international cooperation, with more and more nations being brought into the fold. By the time Atlantis starts, there are scientists, soldiers, and politicians from all over the planet helping out with the Stargate program. Stargate Universe is often accused of being too dark and cynical for a Stargate show, but it plays out this entire philosophy in microcosm. At first the crew is divided, with Dr. Rush, Colonel Young, and Camille Ray all jostling for control of the ship, with Rush in particular going out of his way to hide knowledge from the others. But over time, they explore more of the ship, reverse engineer more of Destiny's systems, and work closer together until they embody the exact kind of camaraderie seen in SG-1 at Atlantis. Stargate Atlantis drives the point home even more by making a concerted effort to demystify the ancients. There's often a tendency in science fiction to make hyper-advanced ancient aliens into a civilization of esoteric godlike entities, whose technology is so far advanced that it's indistinguishable from magic. But Stargate doesn't do that with the ancients. They're extremely advanced, but their ships are these industrial-looking workhorses, with Destiny going so far as to have this steampunk aesthetic. But more than that, the ancients themselves are often portrayed as arrogant in attitude and stagnant in thinking. Even those of them who ascended to a higher plane of existence end up just resting on their laurels, content to look down on the universe from their ethereal towers. That's not to say the Tauri are without wisdom though. In the past, I've also highlighted the absence of a prime directive in Stargate. Starfleet's non-interference policy in Star Trek is upheld to the point of religious fervor by characters in-universe and even some Trekkies in the real world. SG-1, on the other hand, has no qualms about assassinating the head of state of the largest power in the galaxy. The Tauri don't always get it right, and the show doesn't shy away from the consequences, but it takes a less black and white view than Star Trek. It trusts that humanity can wield its newly found power responsibly, to draw a clear distinction between themselves and their enemies. The enemies in Stargate are those who weaponize ignorance and use their knowledge to wield power over others. Through Stargate's rejection of this philosophy, we can see the mythos supports a much more egalitarian view. Everyone should have access to knowledge because if everyone has cool stuff, then everyone is equal. While the characters in Star Trek would withhold warp drive from a more primitive world, Stargate would gift wrap the thing and hand it to them. Because hey, they might do something cool with it. We certainly would. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay up to date on all new uploads. You can see videos early, uncut, and ad-free by joining my Patreon. Speaking of which, I'd like to quickly thank all of my patrons and members with an ultra thanks to Eamon Kelly, Michael Hardy, Ian Hodge, County Ark, Mike Halsey, Retro PC Gamer, Benjamin Stokes, Hiroshi the Dog, Movie Magic, Charles Borsum, Olivia Computer, Bano, Extreme Streamers, Tom, Dusk, Colin Camille, Patrick Fleming, Matthew Camille, Ed Mark Starr, Dylan Thomas, Lilac Yane, Howard Craig Akervik, and Caging G. Until next time, have a good one guys.